Okay. Energy. Maybe I should take a shot.
Do we feel good?
I'm gonna take a shot.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of days. You know what?
Pour it up.
Yeah. What are we drinking? Which flavor?
The orange.
Amazing.
All right. Should we do this on camera? We can be a shot.
I think we're
Terps.
already on camera. To a good season.
To a good season.
A great season.
A great season. Our
A
Terps
rewarding
overachieved.
season. They did.
Nothing like starting the... That was good.
It is really good. It's just 11 a.m. again. Welcome to See You in the Lobby, the post-Elite 8 pre-Final Four edition. I'm very tired. But
if
this
you hear
has been...
sadness in our voice, it's because our Terps got knocked out.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a weekend.
It has been.
You want to start there? We can start there.
Well, let's start with our Terps.
We can start there.
Shout out to the Lady Terps. They had a great season. Lost 85% of their offense. 4 starters.
Wild numbers.
Yeah, and all this chatter around what's going on at Maryland. Like they keep, losing all these big names to the transfer portal. They exceeded everybody's expectations.
Beyond.
Not they, I know, and like Coach B and how she handled, they had these expectations for themselves, but nobody thought they were going to be this far. I think Coach B deserved to be in the National Coach of the Year conversation. To lose what she lost,
that South Carolina game was proof.
And to get the transfer she's able to get this team to believe and have the confidence that they could do what they did. They went to the Elite 8 and played the team that hasn't lost a game in 17 years. So, and gave them probably one of the best games they've had all season.
That's what I was saying last night. I really think that was the game that South Carolina had to play the hardest all year. I know that they had some overtime games, some games that were close, but South Carolina was actually for a quarter thrown out of their rhythm. Maryland was up by 6 points after the first quarter. South Carolina was playing at a pace it doesn't usually play at. They usually operate in that slow half-court offense.
Yeah.
Maryland made them run, and South Carolina didn't know how to handle it until they regained composure. Obviously, that's why they're amazing and haven't lost in 17 years. But that's pretty damn good for a Maryland team that lost pretty much every amazing player in the world last year. It came in with a bunch of transfers and overachieved all year.
They found a way to get it done. They played together. They played for each other. You could tell that they legitimately wanted the success of each individual on the team. Like you said, they took South Carolina to a place they hadn't been all year. Like you said, they were uncomfortable.
100%.
And I think, foul trouble played. I mean, there's been a lot of chatter about the refs. It's never going to come down to that. I mean, we got out rebounded by 22 points, but we did look good, and like all things considered, shout out to our Terps. We don't need to talk too much, but they had a great year.
It was
impressive.
Love you
guys.
It was impressive. But even if we didn't go to Maryland, I would still be like, damn, someone made a South Carolina game tough in the tournament.
Yeah.
Which, deserve props for that.
So go Terps.
Go Terps. On the other end, though, South Carolina is just insanely good.
Yeah, they are. I mean, and what's so crazy is I've never seen a team. I don't say never, but you don't often see a team that's so dominant that can't shoot.
Yeah, true. They have a glaring flaw, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's credit to Don, it's credit to those players, but they play hard, they play defense, and they rebound, and those are all things that you need to win championships.
The rebounding is, I don't know if there is a team left that is ever going to stop that. It's not even just the Aliyah Boston show, which she was amazing yesterday, but Cardoso, Beal, Saxton, they just have a bunch of players who box out, and no matter how many times a miss might come in the mid-range, they're going to follow it up with a layup, and I don't know how you stop that. It's
like the traditional rebounds, but they also go after a lot of the loose ball rebounds. Like they hustle so well. Like they get a lot of those 50-50 balls, those 50-50 rebounds. I mean, they're impressive. That's why they're 36-0. That's why they're number 1 team in the country, and that's why I think they're going to be back-to-back national champions.
You want to lead into it?
Let's do it.
Well, I mean, they have a major matchup coming up.
Well, okay, before we talk about the Final Four matchup, let's talk Aliyah Boston's numbers in the game versus Maryland.
Let's do it.
10 for 14 from the field, 22 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks. So the reason why I want to chat about this is like the whole player of the year conversation, Clark or Boston. I think Clark. I'm giving the award to Clark, but it's not as like the separation that people like. It's not like Clark is running away with it, in my opinion. It's easy when you see Aliyah's numbers this year to think, oh, like she shouldn't be in the conversation anymore. But you have to look at the team she's playing on. Iowa literally needs Caitlin to have a triple-double to win that game.
She needs to score or assist on almost every bucket.
They don't. South Carolina doesn't need Aliyah to put up 22 and 10 a game to win games, and that shows the growth of the team. And that's she kind of. But when the big games show up, they needed her last night.
100%.
And she showed up. So I think it's it's almost kind of taking for granted how great she is because she plays on that again. Iowa needs Caitlin to put up these numbers. That doesn't negate that she is the player of the year. Let me say that again because we're getting some hate comments.
I know. It's just listen. The fight between those two for player of the year on Twitter is a lot.
Yeah, like it's like I said, it's Clark, but we can't just sit here and act like Aliyah is still not a player of the year candidate.
But you're 100% right. And I think her first games in the tournament, some games I don't even know if she hit double digits in points because she didn't have to. She was taking 5-7 shots.
When you're winning by 60 points,
when you're on the best team in the country and you are the center point for that best team in the country, you want to rest that player because the game's over. You knew that you're going to need Aliyah for a game like the one against Maryland, so she didn't have to play the same way that she would in a close game. But yeah, I mean, when it came down to it, Maryland had South Carolina on edge after a quarter, and then I'm sure Dawn ripped into Aliyah and was like, "This is your time."
Yeah.
And Aliyah showed up. I mean, this is why she's the reigning player of the year. This is why she's a reigning champion. She's very obviously one of the best players in college basketball, and she showed that when she needs to, she turns on the Jets, and it was her game yesterday.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about the player of the year in Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, we can go to that one next.
41-point triple-double.
41-point triple-double. Not sure where the 10th rebound came from.
Yeah, the 10th rebound is a little questionable. We might put a little asterisk next to that, but nonetheless, she got it.
You round up sometimes.
We talk actual numbers and like the things she was doing that game. I don't think people understand how hard it is to put up those numbers in that type of game. Like your conditioning, your mental, like that is something that's so overlooked on what she does. Again, they need her to put up those numbers. So she has the pressure of like, she knows she has to do this in order for them to win. One, but two, it's like she's having to play 40 minutes a game, 39 minutes a game, and
do everything.
Yeah. It was impressive. It was fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to watch. Her passing ability, she never gets rattled. That's one thing that I said it and I'll say it again, but when we went and saw them when they played Maryland, that was something I was super impressed with, how she always lets the game come to her, and she's always very she plays in that gray area. And that's where most players that are able to excel, they just are constantly playing in that gray area. They're never getting too high, never getting too low. But her passing ability is insane.
She's on another level. I felt like it was a big moment, that 41-point triple-double-ish. But I felt like it was a really big moment that I will remember, I feel like, for a long time in women's hoops, and for a lot of reasons. One, because I do feel like this tournament has been one of the most fun tournaments there have been in recent memory, with the upsets and whatnot. Two, you have the game before it was Angel Reese and LSU, which everyone was tuned into because they are another really fun team that people are engaged with. And then the Caitlin Clark show happened when there was no men's game on TV. It was the spotlight on ESPN. It was the primetime slot. And she went off. I mean, she went off. And I feel like conversation around Caitlin Clark carried after that game for an entire news cycle the next day. All of a sudden, you see a lot of places talking about...
Williams talking about it.
You see a lot of places talking about women's basketball that otherwise wouldn't have talked about women's basketball, and for good reason, right? Caitlin Clark wasn't just the first person, men or women, to put up a 40-point triple-double. She was the first one to put up a 30-point triple-double. No one's come close to what Caitlin Clark did in that game, and she was awesome. And I feel like finally, maybe the tournament got some more recognition that it really deserved, and suddenly the conversation shifted to, is Caitlin Clark the most entertaining player in either tournament? And I think that there's an excellent case for her being the most captivating player there is in the tournament.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt. She's the
and that's huge. It felt like a huge shift, and that's why we're talking about this game coming up over the weekend with the Final Four between undefeated South Carolina with Aliyah Boston, the presumed number one pick in the draft, against Caitlin Clark, this junior who's put on 40-point triple-double shows we're headed for one of the biggest college basketball games there's been.
Yeah. I kind of wish it was going to be the championship
I wish it was
matchup,
the championship too.
but I'm excited for it. I think Caitlin's made for this moment. I think she knows there's a lot for her to prove in this. You're playing undefeated South Carolina, defending national champs. Like you said, Aliyah, Boston, like this is the team that everybody's been talking. It's been South Carolina, Caitlin Clark. Those are the two
That's the names.
Storylines all season that everybody's been hearing about. So I think this is a matchup people have been waiting for. What's she going to do against their defense? And what tricks are South Carolina going to have up their sleeves to be able to guard? Because it's like, look, she's seen all the junk defenses. She's seen boxes won. She's seen double teams, and she still finds a way to put up numbers. So it's gonna be it's gonna be a big challenge for South Carolina. Like they're a great defensive team, but I don't think it's as cut and dry. It's just like we're a good defensive team. We can stop her. She's elite, and she always finds a way to get it done. So I'm excited to see what happens. I do think Iowa's post players are gonna struggle immensely.
I hope Sonato's well rested.
Yeah, Sonato, she's a great player, and what I'm about to say is no knock to her. I feel like I have to preface all this now because the hate weekend.
Yeah.
But no knock to her, but she puts up the number she does because she has Caitlin.
Yep.
When you have a player that can find you in your spots and you literally don't have to dribble, I think they said she's taken 3 dribbles all tournament, which is literally insane. But it's because of Clark. Clark puts her teammates in positions to be successful. She's going to have to make a move to get her shots up against South Carolina. You're going up against 6'6", 6'7", 6. They got some tall women. So she's going to have to make a move. It's no more just, catching and going up because you're going to have these tall players with this huge wingspan. So it's going to be, I'm most interested to see what everybody else does.
That's what's going to come down to, right?
Yeah.
Because Caitlin, she can't take 40 shots. She's going to have to find some other players to contribute. And in the last couple of games, we've seen a couple of their shooters step up big time. Gabby Marshall, McKenna Warnock, and like those players are going to have to play. But you're right. Sonato contributes a good portion of their offense, and she does it down low. And that's the place where South Carolina wants you to catch the ball because they know that they have players who are going to stop that from happening. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious how Iowa is able to change its game plan up because it's just straight up not going to work. And it's just not.
I think South Carolina may have to change their game plan too because Iowa does get up and down because of Clark. I think another underrated thing, which is like crazy talking about anything of Clark's game being underrated, but something that's not talked about a lot is her speed and quickness. It was something else that I was impressed with, up close, watching her up close in person. Which she's pretty quick and she can get to the rim. And you saw against Maryland pushing tempo, and that got South Carolina out of their comfort zone a little bit. So I can see, Iowa trying to push tempo and make them, run up and down the court. It's going to be a track meet, and I know that's what Iowa wants. And South Carolina is going to have to pick up Clark full court, and it's going to be interesting.
I wonder if Maryland was a nice little warm-up session for South Carolina to go out and handle Iowa now because they both play at such impressive speeds, and now South Carolina's gotten a taste of it.
Yeah, or it could maybe I don't want to say it could warm up, but Maryland doesn't have a Caitlin Clark, so it kind of changes the dynamic. When you have a player that's so dynamic and can put up the numbers that she can, it changes that. You're game planning for her, but she still can push tempo. You want the ball out of her hands because if she's not scoring, she's assisting. She's finding her teammates.
It's her gravity in general.
It's an interesting matchup. I still think South Carolina, they have too much. They're too big. They do all the things you need to win a championship very well, but I don't know. It's
gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
On the flip side, we do have another game coming up as well. I did want to talk about one. LSU is in the Final Four, which that was a team that was, I don't even know what the right word is, but I think all year everybody was like they didn't play a hard enough schedule. Sure, they have 2 losses, but their non-conference schedule was weak. They haven't played up to their opponents. They got shut down pretty good by South Carolina in the one big matchup they did play. They didn't win their conference tournament. Even though they were a 2-loss team, they were a 3 seed, which seemed fair to me at the time. But now they cleared their bracket. They're in the Final Four.
LSU still doesn't impress me, and it's not me being a hater or anything. I'm not impressed watching LSU play, and they had an easy bracket. I said all season long that Indiana was not a number one team. They weren't a number one seed. I'm not going to say they didn't earn it, but they are not a traditional number one seed. Like if I had Indiana in my bracket, I'm not scared. I'm not worried. If anything, I'm kind of happy. LSU had an easy bracket in my opinion. They don't impress me. And honestly, I think there's a lot more parity this year in women's basketball, but it's not a ton of elite teams. It's a bunch of solid teams.
And South Carolina.
Yeah. That's honestly what it is. But it's good for the game. It was great to see a team like Miami. But that Miami LSU game
was tough. It was a tough watch.
It was very hard to watch. But again, LSU, Caitlin
Clark almost outscored Miami.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, LSU don't impress me. I don't like Angel. She was 3 for 18 against a Miami team that does not have a traditional post. It
was a tough go.
So I think teams are seeing how they can guard Angel. I'm good for them to be back in the Final Four, but I still don't think they've done any even in the tournament. Who have they played?
Yeah. They played a decent Utah team. That came down
and Utah lost that game.
And Utah did lose.
LSU did not beat them. Utah lost that game.
Poor Jenna Johnson.
Yeah.
That was heartbreaking. That even hurts for me to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, getting to see Miami make a run in the Elite Eight is as nice of a draw as LSU could have hoped for. So.
And Miami could have won that game.
Yeah, I mean, LSU certainly didn't impress. I mean, Kim Mulkey wasn't impressed by her own team. I think she said something about
they set women's basketball back, or she would turn her TV off.
Yeah, I mean, she said something of that nature, and that game was jarring.
Yeah, and then LSU, they're hard to watch in general because of all the antics. They're not like Kim Mulkey. Everybody has their feelings about her. We're not going to go there, but
we'd have a whole separate podcast.
Like Angel's, she's a good player. Like but all those antics, they need to go. Like there's a difference between like being competitive and just being spicy than just being obnoxious. And her antics are obnoxious. Like you have somebody draw a ring on your finger before the game's even over. You haven't won shit yet. You went to the Final Four. Unless it's changed, you don't get a ring. The NCAA doesn't give you a ring for making the Final Four.
Okay, that's an important note because
your school might give you a ring, but I have plenty of friends that made it to Final Fours. We didn't get a Final Four ring.
You did it.
We just got our national championship ring. I have friends that have been to multiple Final Fours and they didn't get rings. So it's up to the discretion of the school. But even so, the goal isn't to go to the Final Four. The goal is to win a national championship. So ring me. You ain't done shit yet. What have you won? You ain't win your conference championship. You got blown out by South Carolina. Please tell me. Like, it's obnoxious. Like, I'm all for this, the shit talk, being fiery and spicy. Like, I used to talk a little, like, that emotion is what you're supposed to have that emotion, especially in the NCAA tournament. But there's like a line between like, it's just being attention seeking, a bit obnoxious and disrespectful. Like
they had their phones out before the game ended.
That's just crazy to me, and that shows just the state of society in general is that everything you want to document everything, but to have you're on IG Live going through the handshake lines, or like the game hasn't ended and you already have your phone, like that really makes me think. It makes me question a lot. I'm not questioning her dedication to the game or anything like that, but. If after you win the game to go to the Final Four, your first thought is, where's my phone?
Yeah.
Like, you're not really being present. It's just, I don't know. I don't like a lot of it. Coach B would not have let us, and I know times have changed, but I would like to think I still know Coach B well. And there's no, like, it's just, I don't know. A lot of it just.
It's a lot.
It bothers me.
And we're waiting for them to show us something to be impressed by, and they had really the one opportunity against South Carolina that didn't go well. Otherwise they still haven't played anybody that's made us feel like LSU is championship caliber, but they're in the Final Four. So
congrats to LSU. Getting to the Final Four is a great achievement. So I'm not knocking that. I only went once. So it's hard to get there, so I'm not knocking it. It's just LSU's not. They're not easy to cheer for. It's so much more than just the basketball with them. It's the antics. It's this. It's that. It's just like
That's the coach.
just go out. Yeah, just go out there and play. Like they are a very attention seeking team in my opinion. From all their coaching staff, like the one coach, he can anytime. I'm like I feel like he's always going to tap Kim Mulkey in timeouts just so the cameras can see him and his fits. But it's just like they're a very attention seeking team to me, and that it's just not fun.
Listen, I get it. They're in the Final Four though, and they're gonna play a Virginia Tech team who we both didn't think was gonna make it this far either.
Yeah, I think I need to just like shift my mindset because I'm just so used to the Virginia Tech when I was in school, and that was like, all right, check off this dub. All right, like how quickly can we get out of Blacksburg? So they're good now, and Kenny Brooks is a great coach. When he was at JMU, like I've had conversations in passing, but I've only heard great things about him from players that have played for him. So happy for them. I think they're extremely well coached. They're disciplined. They're experienced. They have veteran leadership. I don't think this is a clear runaway win for LSU. I'm interested to see the matchup with the post players. Angels struggled against a Miami team that was picked like 8th in ACC. Like she struggled against, I know a post player that up until the tournament none of us had really heard of. Yeah. So now she's going to be going up against an All-American. How tall is Kitley?
Kitley's like 6'6".
Yeah,
Kitley's
so
got size.
I'm interested to see that matchup. And Angel seems to struggle against post players of her caliber. And then to the point guard matchup, I think that's
Georgia
that.
Moore.
That's going to be another one.
Georgia Moore was awesome in the Elite Eight game as well. So I'm very curious. Again, that was a team that I always thought was the weakest number 1 seed. I was like, I'm not sure the resume holds up. You have the whole back storyline of Ashley Owusu not playing a minute for this team, which kind of makes you think like, oh, they're a little all over the place if they can't get an All-American on the floor. But it's not true. Again, no knock to Ashley. We talked about her in the past, but Kitley's brought it every game in the tournament. Georgia Moore is another really shifty point guard who's shooting off the dribble in really creative ways. And yeah, they made a nice run. They had to fight through some competition as well. So I do think it's a nice matchup for LSU and Virginia Tech to both prove, like the winner of this game is going to prove that they have a really nice win under their belt heading into the championship game. I'm pretty sure if you asked a lot of people to rank the top 4 teams, South Carolina and Iowa are still those top 2. But I think one of them is going to have a nice energy coming out of an impressive Final Four win, which is good. I'm happy that one of these teams is going to get a chance to show that it deserves to be there. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I honestly think I'm going to give the edge to Virginia Tech on this one. I think on top of them being well coached and they're disciplined, LSU doesn't seem like a disciplined team to me. And LSU seems to get so hyped because so much is about like their antics and the attention that sometimes is to your detriment. I think Virginia Tech, and I think Virginia Tech believed all season they were supposed to be here. So we're sitting here just kind of shocked by it because, and I said my reasons, but Virginia Tech feels like they should be here. They know they should be here. I think they're playing calm. They have the goal in mind. Yep. I don't know. I think I might go ahead with Virginia Tech on this one.
I wouldn't be super surprised. I think that's a really toss-up game at this point. I do think in the other game, I'm still picking South Carolina pretty clearly, even though I hope it's a great game and think it has potential to be. But LSU, Virginia Tech seems like a really evenly matched group. So I'm excited for that one. Wow, we haven't rang the bell at all.
I know. Just talking. How do you guys miss the bell?
Yeah, we missed the bell. I feel like we could give some overlying props to South Carolina. I know we've kind of said it, but I don't know if I've actually felt it. They have not lost since March of 2022 and are 36-0. Can you remember a team that's had a dominant run like this? And do you think regardless of how this Final Four outcome goes, this team will be remembered as something really, really special?
Absolutely. I mean, the teams I think of are the ones I grew up watching, like the Tennessees and the UConns. And then you think of Stewie's UConn teams where they didn't lose forever. No, I think they've already solidified themselves as one of the great all-time teams in college basketball. I don't want to say a lot hinges on whether they win or not, but if they do lose, that's what everybody's going to remember. It's going to be they were 36-1, and got to the Final Four and they lost, or they got to the championship and lost. I just don't see that happening though. They're a well-oiled machine. They're having fun doing it. And they've been getting everybody's best shots all season. I don't know. It seems like destiny for South Carolina. And I've seen some quotes and some chatter from Dawn and some of the players, and she was saying, that year they lost in the Final Four, like it prepared them for this. Yep. And I do think that's true. And I'll say it, and anytime somebody listens, for Aliyah Boston to miss that layup in the Final Four her sophomore year, come back her junior season, win every award possible,
nothing left,
win the championship, and then to come back in her senior year and still be in the National Player of the Year conversation, like that takes a lot. And it's not even skill. It's more the mental. To miss a shot in that big of a stage and be able to bounce back mentally, not too many people can do that. And so saying all that to say, I think that was a defining moment, like Don's been saying, for this team. And this is just like the story ending to that.
Does it feel also, we talk about these giant runs, and UConn didn't make the Final Four for the first time in like 15 years or whatever it was. Dawn's had the Asia Wilson era, ended in a championship. The Aliyah Boston era has at least one, maybe two championships. South Carolina is definitively here as a premier program, right? They are the top school.
Absolutely. It's changing of the guards in many ways. I think the UConn allure isn't there for a lot of people anymore. There's other teams, and people want to do things differently now. And, Gino's kind of old school and antiquated in his ways and how he runs his team. I think Dawn does it right. You look at her players and how highly they regard her, the things they say about her. So I think it's easy to want to play for her because you feel like she's going to have your back, not only as a basketball player, but as a woman, and help develop you both on and off the court. And I remember reading the Washington Post article on Dawn and how any endorsement deal she takes, she makes sure it has an NIL component for her players, and, making sure that they're set up for the money and NIL deals they're doing. Like, she's doing it the right way. And I know players that played for her, and I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about her. And it truly does seem like she wants her players to more so to be successful off the court than on the court, and making them successful off the court. Like, all the stuff in between the lines is secondary and just going to come naturally.
No, I feel it. I'm excited for whatever that next era brings. Obviously, we still have this one to close out, but it's hard to not think a little bit about the future, assuming Aliyah Boston is going to leave and be the number one draft pick. It's like, I'm excited to see what this next third group Dawn brings is, because they've had such an impressive run over the last 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. It feels like we've watched a team like grow up,
Literally, yeah.
That's why I feel like such a passion for it. It's like, damn, this group, we've seen it all. We watched them hit the lows. Now they hit the highs. It's a thing I think, honestly, the men's tournament misses because so many of the players are one and done, or they're transferring or whatnot. But it feels like we watched the South Carolina team form into the premier program. So I'm excited to see what recruits come in next and want to be that next face. Dawn's already had 2 probable number 1 picks.
Yeah.
So if I'm a top recruit, I'm like, damn, what's up in South Carolina?
Yeah, and look, their games look so fun too. They sell out every game. Like,
oh yeah,
Matt
that was a road game.
Yeah, it's like we were texting yesterday. Like, well, gosh, they might as well just have played this at South Carolina's arena. But no, I agree with you. I think it's their time. I think South Carolina is going to be the team we talk about for quite a few years. Yeah, it's good for the game because sick of just UConn. Like, we needed some more.
Sorry, Dawn Staley's not going to Temple, by the way.
I saw that.
Not going to Temple.
But I think we're going to continue to see like South Carolina dominance, and then like this mix of parity within other teams because of the transfer portal.
Yep.
It's made it too easy. So like Ole Miss, 4 of their 5 starters were all transfers. So I think you're going to I think we're going to see that for years to come, as teams like a Ole Miss, solid, that get into the tournament because they have 5th years and transfers and experienced players. They make noise in the tournament. So I think you're going to see a lot of, even the men's side, like there's all these teams that you don't necessarily hear about think it's going to win. It's because they got 7th year seniors and they're like on their 6th school. But it's good. Both tournaments have been exciting. The women's, this is one of the best for sure in many years. So I'm excited. I think it's South Carolina, but All right, let's do our quick picks. LSU, Virginia Tech. Who you got? No pressure. The bell's ringing. Who is it?
Virginia Tech.
Okay, and we already know about the second game.
We know South Carolina. You're with me on Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I'm with you on Virginia Tech. I'm
Tech's
going to go with
gonna
Virginia Tech, and then obviously we're both going with South Carolina.
It's good. Also, my final shout out is for Caitlin Clark telling Haley Van Lith to shut up that she's down by 15 points. That is possibly my favorite note of the entire evening. Okay.
It's been a fun tournament.
Any note, we will be back next week with our final college basketball.
Yes,
thoughts,
and then it's W season.
And we got draft and then W season.
It's going to be fun.
This is the best time of the year. Why is this the dance?
I don't know, I'm going to keep doing it.
I'm so sober. Join us on Discord.
You can talk to us, talk to other people. It's fun.
It's great, and you'll have fun.
You can talk shit to us. Actually, talk shit to us.
Yeah,
leave comments,
and we have to read it because we'll get a notification on our phone, and we can't ignore it.
How fast can we go? Down dab.
And
thanks for tuning in, folks. Yeah. No, join our Discord, the Gaming Society. We'll drop the link in the description. Appreciate you.
Okay, bye.
Peace.